Rest in the bottom lay means whatever is remaining. Rest means whatever is remaining also. And rest means peace and relaxation, peace of mind. So rest in the bottom lay. So that is what was at the left at the bottom, the peace. So he was about to bestow peace of mind also to human beings, and he withheld it. And he said that let the man be restless. Whatever he may be surrounded by, whatever glory he may be surrounded by, yet he may be restless, so that on the pulley of restlessness, I will pull him towards me. Otherwise, we'll be lost with each other. So therefore, he didn't bestow this rest, this peace of mind. So that because of that peace of mind, man will go searching for this peace of mind, this rest, this peace of mind. And therefore, in our lives, if you look at it, whatever experiences we may go through, even if it is an experience of pleasure or joy or happiness, it is all momentary. Once it goes away, either we are miserable or we are bored. One of the two things happen. So therefore, then those who are very much keen, now it is too much that I have to find a way out of this. When somebody has suffered too much, therefore what happens is that if you look at it, 99.99% of the people who have come on the spiritual path, they have come on the spiritual path because of some kind of sufferings they have themselves undergone or they have seen others undergoing. Like for example, Lord Buddha, he himself didn't suffer, but he saw others suffering and his discriminative intellect awakened. Vivek Buddhi awakened, and then he started looking for the cause of sorrow, misery and pain. He had to get to the root of it. And that is how it starts. So unless we go through that, we cannot go in search of this. If everything is hunky-dory, suppose somebody is financially well off, physical health absolute in peak condition, psychological health in peak condition, then family relationship very good house, social relationships very good business or jobs, the weather is conducive, the place is conducive, everything is conducive. In such a person's mind, the thought will never come, who am I? This thought will never come to such a person. Even if somebody asks such a person, do you get such a thought that who am I? Where have I come from? Did I exist before my birth? Will I continue to exist after my death? Or is my existence limited between the birth and death? Or as Gurudev used to say, between the womb and the tomb? If I existed before my birth, what was the nature of that existence? If I continue to exist after my birth, what will be the nature of that existence? Or is my existence limited between birth and death? So these sort of questions will not come to his mind. If you ask such a question, he'll say that I am not stupid to have some funny questions like this in my mind, because everything is fine going on. When things start changing, when there are financial issues, health issues, psychological issues, relationship issues, house maintenance, social relations are deteriorating, there is a problem in job and business, then questions will fly thick and fast. Why did he create me? Did he create me to suffer like this? Then the questions will fly thick and fast. So the thing is that unless these things are there, this suffering is there, nobody will turn towards that. That restlessness has to be there. The suffering has to be there. So therefore, great saints, sages and masters have also said it. In fact, Swami Samartha Ramdas, great saint of Maharashtra, who was the guru of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, he said that when there is tremendous sorrow, misery or pain in life, know for sure that there is a big change, a big turning about to take place in one's life for the better. Same thing was said by Anandmayi Ma also. So these sufferings are there. From that emerges, troubles are required to develop the minds of human intelligence. So from that emerges a path towards that peace, towards that abode where there is no sorrow, no pain, no misery, nothing. So that is how we start. In our Sanatana Dharma, there are two paths. The path of devotion and the path of knowledge. They are the only two paths actually. Though there are so many yogas, are there Karma Yoga, Japa Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and so many yogas are there. But all yogas, they assist in these two paths. Bhakti and Jnana. Path of devotion and path of inquiry or path of knowledge. In path of devotion, also one has to be qualified for the path of devotion. So what is the qualification for the path of devotion? Two qualifications are required. Shraddha and Prema. Shraddha is faith plus element of surrender, Samarpanam. Then the meaning of Shraddha is complete. And the second one is Prema. Those who have these two qualifications, Shraddha and Prema, they are qualified for the path of devotion. And for the path of inquiry or path of knowledge, Viveka and Vairagya has to be there. Viveka is a discriminative intellect to discriminate between the real and the unreal, Sat and Asat, real and unreal, Atma and Anatma, self and that which is not self. So, and then Nitya and Anitya, that which is eternal and that which is ephemeral. So on. So we have to have that discriminative intellect to differentiate among them. So Viveka has to be there and Vairagya has to be there. Vairagya means absolutely no desire whatsoever except liberation. Now, those who are mumukshus, those who want liberation, they are also of four categories. One is called as Atimanda. Atimanda means very, according to this person, he also wants liberation. He wants moksha. So his statement is that if I get it in this life, well and good. Otherwise, better luck in life. So such a type of mumukshu is called as Atimanda. Then there is Banda. As soon as I retire and all my responsibilities are over, I will pursue the spiritual path. This is called as Manda. Then the third type of mumukshu desiring liberation is Madhyama. Madhyama fellow says that I want liberation, moksha, as soon as possible. And the top category is Tivra. Tivra is I want moksha, I want liberation here and now. So these are the four categories. So the higher the mumukshu, the more we will be on the spiritual path, adhering to that without any compromise. Now, as we take up this text of Atmabodh, as the title says, Atmabodh. Atma is the self. So, and Bodha, one way it is called as knowledge also. Bodha means, I would rather call it as awareness. Bodha. So, awareness of the self, or knowledge of the self, or awareness of the self. When we say knowledge, why I prefer the word awareness, there is one thing. When we say knowledge, so in knowledge there is triputi, trio is there. There is somebody who is the knower, something that is known, and the relationship between the two is called the knowledge. So the three are involved in that. But in the knowledge of the self, this triputi is not involved. Knower, known, knowledge difference is not there. Only pure awareness is there. Because Atma is not an object of knowledge. Self is not an object of knowledge. So there is no triputi called as the knower, known, and knowledge. So Atma Bodha, that is awareness of the self. So other than self, everything is not self. Anatma. Everything is Anatma. So now, in the study of Atma Bodha, you people have been doing this text and you have covered 23 shlokas, 24 shlokas you have already covered. So you must have got a fair bit of idea about where the text is going, how it is taking us towards Atma Bodha. The thing is that because of ignorance, what we have done is that over lives together, we have identified with wrong instruments as the self. Now we consider our body as the self, we consider our sense organs as the self, we consider our pranas as the self, we consider the mind and its contents called the emotions, feelings and sentiments as the self, or we consider the intellect and its thoughts as the self, and so on. That is because of ignorance. Slowly, with systematic analysis, we have to discard one by one why the body cannot be the self, why the sense organs cannot be the self, why the pranas cannot be the self, why the mind and its contents cannot be the self, nor the intellect and its contents can be the self. So a text like Atmabodha, Tattvabodha, Atmabodha and Vivek Chudamani on a bigger canvas helps us into getting into the analysis. Because without analysis, now another thing I want to make it very clear, this Atmabodha, the awareness of the self or self-realization, cannot happen through intellect. One has to understand that. So then why are we studying the scriptures then if intellect cannot realize the self? Intellect has its limitation. Intellect is actually the product of ignorance. So therefore, intellect we can use very well to ascertain what we are not. Having done that, whatever remains is the self. Intellect can be used only to ascertain what we are not to know the self. To know the self, we have to transcend the intellect itself. Because intellect is a product of ignorance. Intellect is inert matter. Intellect is inert matter, and unless it is enlivened by consciousness, intellect cannot act on its own. So that is the topic of 25th shloka that we'll be taking up for study today. In the 25th shloka, Adi Shankaracharya says, Atmana Satchidamshascha Buddhehe Vrittihi iti Dvayam Sanyojya cha Avivekena Janami iti Pravartate. Atmana Satchidamshascha. Atmana, the self, is the Satchid Atma, the Satchid Amsha or the aspect of that Atma. Sat and Chit is existence knowledge. Existence knowledge aspect of that Atma. Buddhehe Vrittihi iti Dvayam. And the other thing is that the thoughts that are arising in the intellect, manifesting in the intellect. So on one side is the aspect of existence knowledge of the self. On another side is the thought that is manifesting in the intellect. Sanyojna cha avivekena, sanyojya cha avivekena, their blending, indiscriminate blending, gives rise to this notion. What is the notion? Janami iti pravartate, I know. Now here, what is to be understood is that ego manifests. Actually, there cannot be a blending between two dissimilar things. Actually, Atma is of the nature of existence and knowledge, whereas intellect is inert matter. So inert matter and existence knowledge, Atma, they cannot have a combination in any case. So, but avivekena, because of ignorance, two things come together and a third entity is born. When two things come together, a third entity is born in between, which has actually no existence, but it appears. So when this consciousness, pure self, and this inert intellect, they come together, inert body, mind, intellect, when they come together, just by their close proximity, a third entity is born called the ego. Now here, first, let me clarify how this intellect becomes activated or enlivened rather. If you look at it, as regards Atma is concerned, self is concerned, that alone exists and nothing else exists other than itself. So as far as self is concerned, Ekameva Advitya, one non-dual entity without a second, and nothing else exists as regards self is concerned. From this point of view of the Atma, nothing exists. It is one non-dual self, and there is no notion of I also in the self, because the I notion comes only when there is something other than I. So nothing else exists other than the self. Now, but we see that there is a world, there are people, there are other creatures also, there are planets, there are stars, and all other things are there. So if nothing else exists other than the self, what is this? Where does it come from? Where is its manifestation? What is the reality of that? So those are the questions that may come to mind. So therefore, there is different types of Satya. There are three types of Satya: Paramarthik Satya, Vyavaharik Satya, and Pratibhasik Satya. So Paramarthik Satya is the absolute truth. That is pure self. That is the absolute truth, Paramarthik Satya. Then the Vyavaharik Satya. Vyavaharik Satya is the relative existence. That is what we are talking about, what we are experiencing now. We are experiencing a relative existence. But relative existence doesn't have a permanency. It is impermanent. but it has got a relative reality, no doubt about that. Absolute reality is the Atma, the self, and then we have got a relative reality, that is Vyavharik Sat, that which we are experiencing now. Then there is something called as Pratibhasik Sat. Pratibhasik reality, that is, it is in only in appearance, the reality is. So these are the three types of Sat. So since the relative existence is there, some explanation has to be given to that. Because as far as Atma is concerned, nothing else exists other than itself. Then what is all this? So an explanation has to be given here, and therefore about the creation and all that thing comes. So now, this Atma, the consciousness, it doesn't directly illumine anything. Only in the reflected consciousness, something called as Chidabhas, technically known as. Now, let us take a concrete example. The sun falls on this earth equally on everything. The sunlight falls. But it falls on the mud also, it falls on the stone also, it falls on granite also, it falls on water also, it falls on the metal also, it falls on the mirror also. But sunlight is not reflected everywhere. Though it falls everywhere, it is not reflected everywhere. Sunlight doesn't reflect when it falls on the soil or on the stone. It may reflect a little bit if it falls on the polished granite. If it will reflect much more if it falls on a metal like gold or steel or something like that. It will reflect much more if it falls on water. And it is reflected most when it falls on the mirror. So, depending upon the reflecting medium, the reflection will be. And some mediums do not have the capacity to reflect at all. So, therefore, it will not reflect at all. So, therefore, in this existence, now if we say that if consciousness is only there, if Atma is only there and it is all pervading everywhere, why there are some things that are insentient, non-living or inert, and some things that are plants, that is rudimentary life. Then there are smaller life forms, and then the animal kingdom, and then the human form. So why it is different thing if that Atma or pure consciousness is all pervading? Then again, this reflecting medium comes there. As sunlight falls everywhere, but it is reflected only on certain surfaces. Similarly, this Atma or pure consciousness is everywhere. But in a stone, it doesn't reflect in the stone. Therefore, it appears inert and insentient. In the plants, it reflects to a little bit only, like it reflects on a granite or some steel metal like that. So a little bit. So it has got life form. And then in animals, it reflects much more, like in water, the reflection of sunlight in water. And in mirror, it reflects much higher, that is human beings, the most, like that. So therefore, it depends upon the reflecting medium where it reflects. If the reflecting medium is not proper, then it will appear inert. If it is there, proper to reflect it, then some life form will be appearing in that. Similarly, the reflection only comes, not the actual light. If you look at it even in the sunlight also, actually we cannot see the light. What we generally see is the reflection. We don't see the light. If a ray of light is passing through space where there is nothing to reflect, though the ray of light is passing through it, it will appear dark only, unless there is something to reflect. When the ray of light is passing through the atmosphere and coming to the earth, there are a lot of dust particles in the atmosphere. And it hits that dust particle and reflects. You see, that is one reason why the sky appears blue. Sky appears blue, but space has got no color. But yet the sky appears blue because this dust particle, ray of light, has got 7 colors, Vibgoric colors. So out of the 7 colors, 6 are absorbed by the dust particle, but it cannot absorb this blue color. So it reflects the blue color, and when we look from the earth, the sky appears like blue. So if any object is there, if it absorbs all the colors, it will appear black. If any object is there, if it reflects all the colors, it will appear white. And if there is an object which neither absorbs nor reflects, but allows the light to pass through it, it will appear transparent. So it all depends upon the reflecting medium. So light as it is can't be seen. So when we see an object which is green in color, actually we do not know the actual color of that object. We are only seeing the reflection. So that object is unable to absorb the green color, so it appears like green. But actual color, what it is, we do not know. So like that it is. So what we see around in this world is not what the reality is. You see, many times we think about it, but if we see that, it is not the reality. But that is only apparent because of the limitations of our eyes also. So similarly, the object has to be reflected. Now, for example, another example we'll take, which is given in the text also. So one room is very dark and nothing can be inside that room. Even during the daytime, nothing can be seen. So one day there is bright in that room and things can be seen. Then it is discovered that a bucket of water was kept outside and the sunlight was directly reflecting into that bucket and the reflection fell on the wall of the room, and therefore the room was illumined and everything can be seen. Now the light which is there in the room is the borrowed light. It is the reflected light, not its own. So it is the reflected light. And in that reflected light, things are seen. Similarly, in the intellect also, there is the Chidabhasa or the reflected consciousness. Because from our entire body, only intellect is the only instrument where the consciousness can be reflected. So that Chidabhasa arises in the intellect. And in the light of that, the thought is illumined. The I, the ego arises. So I, the ego arises in that I know, I, the ego arises. And then it identifies now the self is there, but then with the arising of this I, the ego, it identifies with all the body, mind, intellect equipment and thinks itself to be this body, this sense organs, this mind, this intellect and all that thing. Janami iti. So the thing is that because of this reflected light, then once the thought arises, then thought translates into speech, speech translates into action, and then we are put into action one after the other. Then we become activated or enlivened, and then we go about our work. Now, though this body, mind, intellect is not our real self, and the funny thing is that nobody told us from birth until now that you are the body. Has anybody ever told us that you are the body, you are the sense organs, you are the mind and its contents, you are the intellect and its contents called the thoughts? Nobody has told us. But we have taken for granted that we are this. When nobody has told us, we have taken for granted we are this. And the scriptures, great saints, sages, masters, prophets, rishis, they have been telling us that you are not this body, not the sense organs, not the mind and its contents called the emotions, feelings or sentiments, not the intellect and its thoughts. You are an entity other than this. They have been telling us, but it is hard for us to accept it because of our own ignorance. So this continuous churning is required to understand that. Now, these two entities, when they come together, a third entity is born. Now, Atma is there and this inert matter is there, and with their union, so to say, a third entity is born, which is called as ego. And this ego is what causes all the trouble for us. Now, this ego's existence is also fictitious. If we start inquiring about this ego, then we'll not come across that, it will disappear. You see? Now, like for example, during summertime, afternoon, during summer, hot desert sands. If you look from far, it will appear as if there is some water at a distance. What is this phenomena? We all know very well. It is called as phenomena of mirage water. So at a distance, when we are in the hot deserts, in the desert, at a distance, we can see water there. Now, this is a phenomena that happens because of the sunlight on the hot desert sand. At the surface of the desert sand, the air is rare. And therefore, when we look through the higher level of air and we look through that at a distance, that appears that there is some kind of water is there. But it is an illusion. Now, the person who doesn't know this phenomena of mirage water, he will think that if he's thirsty, he'll think that there is really some water, he'll run after that. So, this mirage water has appeared. The reality is the desert sand and the sunlight. And when these two things come together, avivekena, and a third entity is born called as mirage water. Similarly, when the inert matter called the body and the pure consciousness, the self, when they come together in close proximity, together in the sense in close proximity, a third entity is born called as ego. Like mirage water is only an illusion. It doesn't have its own existence. We cannot take the tons of mirage water into the lab and try to analyze that. No, it can't be done. Okay. Similarly, this ego that is manifested between the two, that is also fictitious. But that which has got no real existence troubles us the most. That which has got no real existence troubles us the most because of our own ignorance. So, Atmana Satchidamshascha Buddhehe Vrittihi iti dvayam. These two together come. Sanyojna cha avivekena. Because of discrimination, Janami iti pravartate. So then, I know, I start identifying with this thing, and then once the thought comes, thought translates into speech, speech into action, and one action into another action, and it goes on continuously. Then the desires manifest, and it goes on continuously like that. So now, I presume this particular topic, the illumination, how this ego arises in the intellect. Why only in the intellect? Because intellect is the only thing that can reflect the consciousness. Nowhere else consciousness can be reflected. No other part of the body consciousness can be reflected. Now what happens is that we have taken the example of the bucket full of water where the sunlight was reflected and illumined the things in the room. Now a little bit more about this example we'll take. This bucket is like the gross physical body, and the water is like the subtle body, which is the mind, intellect, equipment, subtle body. This is gross physical body. Now, what happens is that if there is a leak in the bucket, then we discard the bucket and pour the water into the other bucket, a new one, a fresh one, which is good. Now, similarly, what happens when a person dies? It is generally said that so and so is dead and gone. Now we have to understand that what is dead, what goes, and what remains. So here, if you take this example of bucket full of water, the dead is the gross physical body, the bucket. What goes is the subtle body, the water, into another body. So that has gone. And what remains? That entity which doesn't travel anywhere because it is, there is no limit to that. It is infinite. There is no movement for it. That is called the self, Atma. Atma doesn't come or go. It remains where it is because it is infinite entity. There is no movement in Atma. So Atma remains, the body dies, and the subtle body goes in search of another body. This is what we can get to this example. So now the subtle body is what reflects this consciousness, and as soon as the reflection stops, the consciousness is still illumining, supporting. For example, what is the difference between a dead body and a living body? In a living body, the consciousness manifests at three levels: existence, knowledge, and bliss. Living human body, it manifests as existence, consciousness, and bliss. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So in the inert matter, it reflects, it manifests only as existence. It is available to us only as existence. Similarly, in plants, it is available as existence and rudimentary knowledge. In animals, it expresses itself as existence and complete knowledge. And then in human beings, it expresses itself as existence, knowledge, and bliss in three ways. Now, between a living human body and a dead body, the difference is that in a living human body, the Atma, the self, the consciousness expresses itself only at the level of Satchidananda, that is existence, knowledge, and bliss. But in a dead body, the same Atma, because it is infinite, it still expresses itself as existence only, not as knowledge or bliss. So, Atma doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't have to come anywhere because it is infinite. So, what goes and comes? Something dies, something transforms, and what goes is the subtle body in search of another gross body. So this is what happens. Now, having said this, we have to go further. This particular shloka gives rise to 26 shloka also we are taking today, because that may give rise to another kind of what you call that doubt, and that doubt is clarified in the 26 shloka. The doubt is what? Some people say whether Atma is active or Atma is passive. This question can arise in some people's mind, because unless Atma illumines the intellect, there cannot be any activity in that form. So Atma, or the self or consciousness, whether it is active or passive, that we need to see. So now in the 26 shloka, Adi Shankaracharya says, Atmano vikriya nasti buddhehe bodho na jatu iti jiva sarvam alam jnatva jnata dishteti muyyati. Atmanah vikriya na asti. Atma doesn't do anything. There is no activity in Atma. We cannot call it as active or passive. It is neither active nor passive. There is no question of any activity there. Why is there no question of any activity in Atma? Because as regards Atma is concerned, nothing exists other than itself. We'll take a concrete example. For example, we go to the seashore and watch the ocean. Millions and millions of waves keep arising relentlessly. Now, if you observe keenly, there are different types of wave that arises in the ocean: small wave, medium, big, large, short, tall, slow, fast. Different types of waves, millions of waves arise in the ocean. Now, for a wave identified as a wave, that wave is in constant competition with all other waves. All other millions of waves, it is in constant competition with that. Moreover, it is also in fear of other waves also. There are bigger waves, large waves, long waves, tall waves, fast waves. It is in fear of other waves. Moreover, it is also in fear of getting bashed, crashing into the stones, rocks at the seashore, and then getting destroyed. So this fear is also there. So there is a competition, there is a fear. Another fear also is there for this wave when it looks at the vast ocean. It is just a minor small wave and it looks at the vast ocean and it is in awe of the ocean also. So it is in competition and in fear of other waves. At the same time, it is in awe of the ocean also. Now this small wave, this is what Jiva is. As a Jiva, our condition is just like this wave. When we look at the other waves and when we look at the vast ocean, the same thing is there. The fear or the competitiveness when we look at the other waves, and then the feeling of awe when we look at the vast ocean. But as soon as the wave realizes that it is water, instantly the fear and competition disappears. Instantly that sense of awe, feeling of awe looking at the ocean also disappears. Because then, as water, we realize that there is no such thing as wave or ocean. There is no existence of wave or ocean other than water. Without water, wave and ocean cannot exist. But without wave or ocean, water can very well exist. So the existence of wave and ocean is because of water, but it's not the other way around. Now this is what it is. As the pure self, we have identified with this body, mind, intellect equipment as the wave identifies itself, the water identifies itself as wave, and then all its sufferings begin. Spiritual journey is going back to the source from where we have come. Our source is our own real self. So discarding what we are not and identifying with what we are in reality. So no, Atmano nishkriya nasti. Now the thing is that vikriya nasti. Atmanaha vikriya nasti. Now there is no activity in Atma. Now if water is told, what are these waves and ocean as regards water is concerned? They are labels of names and forms superimposed on water. As regards water is concerned, there is no such thing as waves and ocean. They are superimpositions on the water. Similarly, as regards Atma is concerned, the entire existence has got no reality. The existence of names and forms, they are superimposition on this pure consciousness called Atma. This Anantapoti Brahmanda, the stars, planets, earth, all the forms and everything, they are a superimposition on this Atma. And without Atma, without the self, it has got no independent existence. Like wave and ocean has got no independent existence other than water. Similarly, they have no independent existence apart from Atma, consciousness. When we look at the wave, when we are looking at the wave, we are looking at the water alone. When we are looking at this existence, entire existence, we are looking at the self alone, the pure consciousness alone, the absolute truth alone. So, Atmanaha Vikriya Nasti. Therefore, when there is no other thing existing for Atma, there is no question of any activity in Atma. Atma is all, infinite. I won't call it all pervading. Because all pervading is in relation to something, we call it all pervading. Something is Alpavyapi and something is Sarvavyapi. Something which pervades. Now, Jiva, he feels that he pervades only through this body. And Ishvara is all pervading. There is a comparison between Jiva and Ishvara. So, one is pervading through the body, another is pervading through the entire cosmos, like that. So, like that, all pervading. But where only one alone exists, there is no question of all pervading, anything like that. So, this label that is called as Sarvavyapi or all pervading or omnipresent, omnipotent, all powerful, and omniscient, all knowing. These labels we are given only to Ishvara, not to the pure self or absolute truth or Atma. Because as regards Atma is concerned, it alone exists, so there is no question of all pervading. Then, for Atma is concerned, it cannot be called as omnipotent because it doesn't need any power. What for it needs any power? Because it alone exists. Nothing is required for that. And it can't be as all-knowing or omniscient because it doesn't have to know anything, because apart from itself, nothing else exists. So these labels are applied only to Ishvara because Ishvara has to create this world. So he has to have all the knowledge also. He has to have the power and he has to have the knowledge also of all the jivas to create that kind of world. And therefore he has to be pervading through all the jivas sanchita karma, the mind. So therefore these labels are to the Ishvara only, not for the absolute truth. So Jiva, Jagata and Ishvara, the Jiva, this world and Ishvara, they exist together and they dissolve together in Atma. So as regards Atma is concerned, there is no activity there. Atmanaha Vikriya Nasti, Buddhehe Bodha Na Jatu Iti. In Atma there is no activity, and in Buddhi there is no consciousness of its own. It is only reflected consciousness. Jiva sarvam alam jnatva jnata drishte iti muhyati. So this Jiva is the fictitious entity called the ego, which identifies with the body, mind, intellect equipment is called the Jiva. Now the Jiva identifies, this ego identifies with his intellect, mind and the sense organs and the body, and he says that I am the knower, I know, I am the seer, I am the listener, and so on. So Jiva sarvamalam jnatva drishteti muhyati. So there is no activity as such. So activity is required for whom? For Ishvara, all these labels go to the Ishvara, omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. These labels go to the Ishvara, not to that Paramatma or the pure self or the absolute truth. Because in that absolute truth, nothing exists. So it doesn't need any power. It doesn't need the knowledge of anything else. And when it alone exists, there is no question of all pervading. All pervading comes in comparison. Ishvara is called as all pervading in comparison to the Jiva. Jiva is limited by his body. He pervades only to that body. So compared to that, he is considered as all pervading. So these labels cannot be applied to Atma or the pure self or the absolute Paramatma. So these have got limitations in their application. So Atmanaha Vikriya Nasti Buddhehe Bodha Na Jatu Iti. So This buddhi doesn't have its own consciousness, but borrowed reflected consciousness. And then this ego, sarvamalam jnatva, and then once the ego arises and identifies, he says, I know, I see, I understand. And then he gets into activity, actions, different kinds of experiences, and the whole samsara starts after that. So these two shlokas tell us, the important thing that these two shlokas tell us is that the body, mind, intellect, sense organs, everything is inert. Everything is inert matter. Intellect and mind, they are subtle matter, manifestation of subtle matter. Compared to that, if you look at it, the gross matter, physical body is gross matter, whereas mind, intellect is the product of subtle matter. They are subtle matter, but they are matter alone. Both are inert only. So, in realization of the self, one goes beyond the inert body, mind, intellect. Intellect we can use to ascertain what we are not. Very well, we can ascertain what we are not. For that purpose, we can use the intellect. And having ascertained what we are not, then we have to transcend the intellect itself to realize the self. So these two factors are given here. Another important factor is that, so the reflected consciousness in the intellect enlivens this inert matter called the body, mind, intellect. That is one thing. Another thing is that Atma is neither active nor passive. As regards Atma is concerned, from the standpoint of Atma, nothing exists other than itself. So therefore, there is no question of any activity in that. It is neither active nor passive. It alone is. That's all. In its presence, if something is happening, that is not about his alone. That happening is also an apparent thing only. Like the mirage water is an apparent thing. Really, that mirage water doesn't exist, but it is apparent. We can see it because of the limitations of our eyes and the refractory effect of the sunlight on the hot desert sand. We can see the mirage water, but for all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist. Though it doesn't exist, our eyes will show that it is existing. At a distance, we can see in the hot desert sand, water is there. So, this is what we understand from these two shlokas. Now, if anybody has got any doubts regarding these two shlokas, if something that has not been cleared, let me know so that I can answer the question. Anybody has got any questions on what we have discussed now? It is in mute mode. I think Pankaj Bhai will ask if anybody has got any questions or if he has any questions.
Swamiji, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Swamiji can hear us. Yeah, Swamiji. So far I have understood, and in our previous classes also it is understood. But when we go from gross body to intellect, and as you said, the reflected consciousness. So up to intellect, everything is inert. So in Tattvamasi, what is Tat? Reflected consciousness is Tat?
No.
Then
Reflected consciousness is not Tat. Tat is the absolute truth, the pure self.
Sorry, Tvam. Sorry, Tvam. That is the absolute truth, yes. Yeah. Can you hear me, Swamiji?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Tat is absolute truth in Tattvamasi. Tattvam Asi. That absolute truth you are.
So that Tat is ego?
No, Tat is not ego. Ego is a fictitious entity. Let me tell you, it appears in its own absence. Okay, when you start inquiring about ego, it will disappear. This, like, for example, I'll tell you about one of my friend many years ago, maybe more than 40 years ago. He told me this thing. He used to work abroad, and when he used to come on vacation to Mumbai, his pet time pass was every Sunday he has to have his meal in a 5-star hotel, either in Taj or Oberoi or somewhere like that, and that too free. So what he used to do is that he will go to the engagement column in Times of India if there are any engagements or wedding in these hotels. So if there is that, then he's suited and booted with a bouquet of flower. He'll go there and he'll present it and he'll have his nice feast. He will have and come back. So I told him, you never got caught like this? No, generally when you are suited and booted, they don't ask. But sometimes it happens. What happens? When some girl's parents will be around and looks like this fellow is quite handsome. So the girl's side, if they are from the boys' side, they'll ask the girl's side, is he your relative or friend or someone? We have invited that guy. Or if it is the girl's side, they'll ask the boys' side, this guy who is seen there, is he known to you, your friend or someone like that? And when he says that, when I can find out that some inquiry is going on, I do the disappearing act. Similarly, ego, when you start inquiring, it will do the disappearing act.
But then why we do not when we start the inquiry and reach, say, cross intellect level, and we are in a total silence mode, we do not experience the
See, we experience egolessness every day. When does it happen? In deep sleep. Yeah, in deep sleep state, we are egoless. That being egolessness, of course, in a deep sleep state, we enjoy that being egoless, because when we wake up, we say, I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it. That is very good. But then it is in ignorance. We have absolutely no knowledge about it. First thing we say is that I didn't know anything after waking up, but I enjoyed it. Okay. Now, if we can wake up from the deep sleep state, deep dreamless sleep state, we can wake up into the waking plane of consciousness, we can come minus the ego. If we can come minus the ego, then we have attained the highest goal of human existence. If that happens. So, because egolessness is what gives us sukha, the joy. See, a person wakes up from deep sleep state, dreamless state, and he says that I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it, without indulging in any of the objects of this world. Ask him, you say that you didn't know anything, but you enjoyed it. What did you enjoy? Did you enjoy something beautiful? Did you see something tasty? Did you taste it? Something fragrant you smelled, or something good that you hear? No, I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it. What did you enjoy? So the bliss of the self, the bliss of Atma or the self is the same thing. Then infinite bliss. We are happy without experiencing any of the objects of indulgences of this world. Be 24/7, every moment. That is the bliss of the state.
Now, may I request other speakers, particularly I would like to, those who belong to Swamiji's class, get them chance first, so they can ask question related to these two shlokas Swamiji explained just now. Padmini, Vijaya, Madam, then others.
No, really, not question. No questions.
No question. Swamiji has given us enough in our class. All doubts and questions are
Karan wants to ask
deserved.
question. Okay, Karan can ask question.
Yeah, come.
What happened? Karan is in mute mode.
No, Karan he has unmuted himself.
Karan is unmute?
Yeah, I can say he's not muted.
All are except Kasturi, all are unmuted.
Okay. So Karan is unmute.
Yes.
But he's saying something, but we can't hear.
That means he has got a problem with his device. He has to log off and log in again.
Oh, so log off and log in, Karan. You log off and log in.
Karan?
Swamiji?
Yes.
In the meantime, can we take up the questions that I have received? Maybe slightly unrelated to the subject matter right now.
Okay.
Until the current comes on the scene.
Okay.
Acha. Satyam Bagai, the gentleman who asked the question, is Atma active or Bagai? Yes. His question is, what role, if any, does Atman play in the operation of law of karma, play of Maya, and the descent of divine grace?
In the what role Atma plays?
I'll repeat. What role, if any, does Atman play in the operation of law of karma, play of Maya, and descent of divine grace?
Law of karma, play of Maya, and descent of divine grace.
Yeah.
As regards Atma is concerned, so the law of karma, it has got nothing to do with law of karma, Atma. It has got nothing to do with play of Maya. As regards divine grace is concerned, Atma itself is, Atmaram itself is a Sadguru. As long as we have the sense of duality in us, as long as we have a sense of duality in us, what happens is that then we need a manifest guru. As long as there is a sense of duality, we need a manifest guru. But our ultimate guru is our own Antaratma. Our own Atmaram is the ultimate guru. So we are guided by that only. Because even in our ignorance, at this very moment, we are nothing but that pure self alone. At this very moment. But because of our own ignorance, we are not aware of it. Okay. And in between, we have certain experiences, we go through certain experiences. Say, for example, during the daytime, if anybody has felt like this, that for no reason, one is happy. I don't know, I am very happy today, but for no reason. There is no particular reason. When that experience happens, remember that you are most identified with your own real true self. That is because our self is the essential nature of our self is infinite bliss. So we are totally identified with that. And therefore, for no reason will we be happy. We seek happiness only because our essential nature is happiness. Infinite bliss is our essential nature. Therefore, we seek happiness. We do not want any kind of misery, sorrow, or pain.
So Swamiji, what he's trying to know that law of karma, then Maya, and all those things, who has created? And number two, if I am in my original Swabhava, Satchit Anand, why did I invite the misery by becoming the ignorant person? Is it a play or the Leela or divine?
See, the thing is that if I am the pure self, how I ended up like this, and when actually I ended up like this, when I had this ignorance and I ended up like this, if I am the pure self, the question can come. The thing is that when it all started, when this ignorance manifested, we cannot know, because the notion of space and time is an illusion. Understand that the notion of space and time is an illusion. And the notion of time and space manifests only in the intellect. Once intellect becomes active, and intellect is a product of ignorance, therefore intellect cannot know when ignorance manifested. Therefore, we do not know when it happened, but we can cut it off, because ignorance is beginningless but not eternal. Because we do not know when exactly the ignorance happened, that we do not know, because that notion of time can only be known only in the mind, in the intellect, mind-intellect equipment. And intellect itself is a product of ignorance, so it cannot know the ignorance.
So like that, can I add a point?
Yeah,
yes.
Swamiji, Mr. Bagai would like to intervene.
Okay.
Mr. Bagai, go ahead.
Swamiji, you just mentioned that Atma and Ishvara are different. Jiva and Ishvara are different. Is it not the one consciousness, Swamiji?
No, I'll tell you something. Atma, Jiva and Ishvara, they are not different. What is the difference between the three? I will tell you. The difference between the three is only one. The pure self plus the conditioning of ignorance is called as Jiva. The pure self with the conditioning of Maya Shakti is called as Ishvara. So the difference between Jiva and Ishvara is the conditioning of ignorance in Jiva and the conditioning of Maya Shakti in Ishvara. Remove the conditioning of ignorance from Jiva and conditioning of Maya Shakti from Ishvara, then Jiva, Ishvara and Atma, they are all one.
I see. When at the time of death, the Atman leaves to join the overall consciousness.
Atman doesn't live anywhere. I will tell you. Let me make this very clear. There is not one Atma per head. If there are 7 to 8 billion people on this planet, that doesn't mean that there are 8 billion Atmas. Atma is only one. I already, in my talk also, I gave that example about the bucket and water. When we say somebody has dead and gone, who is dead, what goes and what remains? In that very clearly I said, if the bucket has sprung a hole, we remove the water from that bucket and put in another good bucket. So this bucket is the gross body, water is the subtle body. So the gross body is dead. So who is dead? The gross body is dead. What is dead? Gross body is dead. And the subtle body goes into another body. Whereas Atma remains where it is. Because both gross and subtle body, they are insentient, inert. It is enlivened by Atma. Atma doesn't come and go anywhere. And there is only one Atma. One self alone.
Okay, Karan has come back. Karan?
Yes.
You can ask
something, Karan?
So yes, Swamiji, so I was going to correlate something that you had said, like coming back on Atma only, Swamiji, and you said that, it is, for it, nothing is different. So, you can't differentiate. There is not a second to the Atma. I think I'll take it like that. So, Swamiji, I'm going to correlate to this of what is propounded in the Upanishads of losing the active will in one's lifetime. Now, with all the knowledge of the self also that one comes to, the most toughest part, I would say, is to lose a person's active will, because whenever you're going through, even if I say, okay, I'm not going to pursue desire, or I'm not going to pursue, so and so things in life, which may bring materialistic or whatsoever kind of things. I wanted to just double confirm with you, because at many points of life, there is a time where intellect plays such a severe role that because of the forceful nature of our existence or the situations we are in, when intellect comes and it hovers over your existence and okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is a discriminating factor, is it very important for me to lose the sense of ownership of the intellect, just like you said in your speech, that it is just a mere reflection of the self and not something of our own device?
You are not losing the sense of ownership of intellect. Let me tell you something about the intellect. Only thing is that you identify with the intellect and then flow with that. as regards intellect is concerned, one thing is very clear: intellect doesn't produce any thoughts. Understand that very clearly. Intellect is only a receiving instrument, like radio. Radio doesn't produce any program. Radio is a receiving instrument. Program is conducted somewhere in the studio, and the sound waves, through sound waves, radio attracts that sound waves, and we can hear that program through the radio. Similarly, intellect is only a receiving instrument. The thoughts are already there, and at what moment what thought will manifest in the intellect? It is a receiving instrument. It doesn't produce anything.
Okay.
There is a time gap between a thought appearing in the intellect and you becoming aware of that. Understand that. Two experiments were conducted, one by a very famous neurosurgeon called as Benjamin Libet. And according to this experiment also, he came to the conclusion that there is a time gap between the appearance of thought in the intellect and we becoming aware of that. So this thought doesn't belong to us. It manifests in our intellect. But then we, like fools, we assert that thought. This is my thought. And then I want a copyright on that. See? And then we suffer. So it manifests there. And then we become aware of that afterward. The same experiment was conducted in Max Planck Institute in Germany also. And they also came to the same conclusion. So we can be witness to that. These thoughts will manifest. At what moment, what thought will manifest, we do not know. See, we do not know.
So intellect is basically a nodal point. It's a nodal point where I can say, okay, you go here, you go there, and this is the right and this is the wrong, and there's no thinking in it. It's receiving, and it's giving different compartments to it, and automatic nature of what it understands and believes in, I think, or what its sum total experiences are, and what it has learned over a period of time. It doesn't need to come up. It doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. Basically, it is just a nodal point for saying, okay, you go here, you go there.
Yeah, that is what it is. That is the programming. See, what is a programming instrument? This body, mind, intellect instrument is the program instrument, not the Atma, not the soul, not the self. That is not program. But this is program, and it goes according to that. And we are not any of this. So we can stand apart. The one who realizes the self, he has dissolved his ego. His ego is there only for the namesake. He has dissolved the ego, dissolved the self, and therefore he is not too much concerned about what happens to his body, mind, intellect equipment. You see, he stands apart and he can see his body, mind, intellect equipment as if it is some object, some kind of an object. So he will speak something, but he is not putting any effort. Spontaneously, words will come out of him. Spontaneously, he will express something. Spontaneously, he will act. But it is not dictated by any particular ulterior motive or anything like that. You see, because he is totally dissatisfied with his body, mind, intellect equipment. In realization of self, that is what happens. So, when we start, at least we can pretend we are not the body, mind, intellect equipment to start with.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Pretending means what? Actually, we become witness to that. What type of feelings are manifesting in my mind? You don't identify with the mind. See, it is after all your instrument. We address this body, unknowingly we are doing that. Unknowingly we are addressing our body as an object. We do not know. We don't call our body as I. We call our body as my body, my hand, my leg, my stomach, my eyes, my nose, my mind, my intellect, isn't it? My leg is paining, my stomach is upset, my eyesight is weak, my mind is depressed, my intellect is not working today. So we call this as mine, and all that is mine cannot be I, isn't it? See, house is mine, computer is mine, cell phone is mine, car is mine, they are all mine, but they are not I. Car is mine, but I am not the car. House is mine, but I am not the house. Computer is mine, but I am not the computer. And so on. So similarly, we address our body, mind, intellect, equipment also like that only. My leg, my stomach, my hand, my head, my intellect, my mind, and so on. We do that, isn't it? So they are also like house, car, computer, cell phone, and all that thing. They are also like that. Unknowingly, also in ignorance, also we are calling it as mine, not as I. You see? And then it has got its own programming. The body has got its own programming. It has come with its own programming stamp at the birth itself. So therefore, it will go according to its own programming. We do not have to bother about what programming the body has got, isn't it?
Understood.
What programming
Understood.
the equipment has got, the sense organs have got. We do not have to bother about that. It will go according to that, but we stand apart and observe it as a witnessing consciousness.
Understood, sir.
Yeah, Swamiji.
Huh.
Now it's already 6:50. So there are remaining questions, and more questions will also crop up during our next meeting.
Okay.
I personally feel that next Thursday we can meet again if it is convenient to you.
No problem. We can meet next Thursday, same time.
And we will take the questions which are not yet answered and the more questions that will come.
Okay.
So I request all the today's participants to give your questions. Swamiji will give you my number, and you can write your questions there, or we can keep it with you, and raise at the time of the next meeting next Thursday at the same time. All the participants, if they can send me their telephone numbers, it will be convenient for me to create a group, and at one single shot invitation can be sent to you. So you can take it from Swamiji, my telephone number, and then we'll create one separate group with Swamiji. Swamiji, now Swamiji will chant. I think Swamiji, what we do is Purnamada, right?
We'll do the Shanti part and conclude the session then.
Shanti part Swamiji will do. We will not participate. We will listen to it. Otherwise, if everybody sings, then there will be incoherent sound. So only we'll listen, and Swamiji will chant the Shanti mantra. Yes, Swamiji.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari
Thank you,
Om.
Swami.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hari Om.
Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.